if I started the sniff and went to get a cup of coffee, latte, tall, ground day, something, right, and came back, I could probably do this about that quick. Right? So, WEP is fundamentally broken. It's underlying causes. No support for robust authentication, WPA. 802.11i is probably where you want to be. No monitoring wireless networks for sudden traffic spikes. And we talked about processing power, and the same thing goes on. Now, what we're seeing now, and one of the solutions that I'm starting to host now in my Security Operations Center in Bluebell, where we're headquartered, is wireless intrusion detection. Right? You've heard IDS, IPS, right? Intrusion detection, intrusion prevention for wired networks. Well, wireless intrusion detection is coming on really strong. Air Defense is a partner I'm using right now for that. So what we're doing is we're looking for rogue devices. We're looking for traffic that's floating through the air that does not fit the pattern or the encryption algorithms that we're using. And we can find those devices, establish what types of devices they are, figure out what's in the packets and what they're using, and subsequently shut them down, or at least deny the access, right? Or make a flashy light go off. So failure to address the evolving standards, implementation, right? These guys were still on first generation wireless, so they got owned fairly quickly. Does this make sense at all? Do you care? Just here for the course credit? All right. Okay. So now we get to the part that I find the most interesting, mostly because it's my business. But fundamentally, all the problems that we've talked about and all these exploits that I've shown you, and I've got a ton of these things. I've got phishing exploits. I've got cross-site scriptings. I can show you man in the middles. I can show you pretty much whatever you want to see. Chances are I've got a demonstration for it. But the problem with all these things is lack of people and processes. People are always going to be the weakest link in the network. I mean, my network would run great if it weren't for the users, right? I almost cussed. But yeah, I mean, that's the fundamental problem. Behavior and awareness training. Somebody in the executive office gets a hold of a security magazine and sees something that has very pretty flashy blinky lights on it. That's cool. We got to have that. Make it happen. So what do? Okay, so they go and make that happen without any consideration to the strategy, without any consideration to asset classification, what's secure, what's not, what needs to be secure, what don't you care about. I mean, I've seen people spend, tens of thousands of dollars to secure assets that weren't worth half as much as the money that they spent to secure it. I mean, I don't know what you think about that, but I think it's just plain stupid. It just really doesn't make a lot of sense. So, this is my definition of too little security. Can anybody tell me what the snow represents in this picture? All right. We're talking about information security here. We're talking about data. We're talking about network security. Besides the obvious that they are, yes, unless these guys are driving hovercrafts around. What does the snow represent? It's my IDS. It's my intrusion detection. How do I know that cars are passing by my gate if there's no snow on the ground? Right? So the snow represents my intrusion detection system. People are going, some are going, yeah, others are going, you are just wrong. Okay. All right, so this is too little security. You think there was a lot of thought that went into this? No. Maybe not. This might be too much security. This is a schematic I found on the internet of the Berlin Wall from the west side. This stops business. Right? Intrusion prevention. Right? We're not really seeing a lot of implementations, although we are seeing more and more intrusion prevention systems going in, and our customers coming to us to look for those kind of things. Fact of the matter is if there's an attack going on and I seek out the source of that attack and I stop it, that has a very high likelihood of stopping my commerce. That's bad. Right? That's worse than the potential of an impact of an attack. Right? So we're not really seeing that until that technology matures a little bit. And I'm sure if my partners, from ISS and Symantec and some of the others that have these systems in here, they would probably try to run me out of the room saying, no, this is all great and good. I'm telling you, from what my customers are asking me for, it's not quite there yet. And intrusion detection, realistically, by the industry is considered a failed technology, because I liken it to walking through the airport security with a gun. Right? You walk through the detector and it beeps. Well, where am I? I'm already on the other side, and I have a gun. Well, that's what intrusion detection is doing. Right? You guys know about the slammer worm that hit? Was released on a Friday afternoon, Eastern time. Man, intrusion detection lights are going off everywhere. The patch for that had been released 6 months prior, by the way. So companies that had proactive security, companies that had their patches and things in place, were not affected by that at all. But meanwhile, Friday afternoon, all the intrusion detection lights, blinking, pagers going off and everything, well, that's all well and good, but everybody's at the lake. What good did that do you? It just pulled you off the lake. Right? So outside of just simply being a warning system, and as intrusion prevention gets better, it will work. It'll work a lot better. All right. So I've talked a lot about having an overall security program. Those that don't are forced into a reactive type of security model. I'm actually ashamed to say most of my customers that we come into have a reactive security model. If it isn't broken, let's not fix it. Most people don't know that it's not broken or that it is broken. Being reactive is expensive. It only brings you short-term results, right? There's always a steep learning curve. Why? Because you're constantly chasing whatever it is, the new virus or the new worm or the new threat is, you're constantly trying to catch up. Very little time for validation because you're constantly putting out fires. Unpredictable resourcing. Well, what happens if 4 or 5 of these things show up at one time? The bandwidth for the resources within the organization is very likely not going to be able to keep up with all of them at one time. So how do you categorize which one is going to be have the most impact on your network? Right? Reduced operational efficiencies for obvious reasons. Increased environmental complexity. And my favorite is distraction from long-term goals and objectives. All right? You're never going to be able to futurize your network, so to speak, if you're constantly running around and putting out fires. So, layered defense as an alternative. When you start out with security, most people start to think about product. They start to think about, well, we have to have a firewall. And what else do we need? Anybody? I want to secure my network right now. Go. What do I need? Anybody?
Training and awareness.
Training and awareness. All right, that's good. Doesn't help my point. That's good. Anybody else? Antivirus. Perfect. What else? What else?
Monitoring tools.
What's that? Monitoring tools. Awesome. Perfect. Great. What else? Rules? Sure. Okay. I've only said intrusion detection about 100 times. Anybody want to say intrusion detection? Still no? All right. I'll pretend somebody said intrusion detection.
Maybe some ice.
What's that? Some ice?
Intrusion countermeasures.
Intrusion countermeasures, absolutely. Sure. Okay. Point is most of those things are product related, because that's what people think about when they start talking about information security. Realistically, the way it should be is information security starts at the top. We need the strategy. We need to understand the business objectives. We need to understand that recipe is the magic formula that creates jobs for this company. We need to protect it at all possible costs.